Corla, first of all, I want to thank all of the deputies who have contributed to this debate, and in particular, I want to pay tribute to my colleague, Deputy Rory Quinn, for tabling the motion and for presenting the Labour Party's case on this issue. As I listened to the debate, I was thinking about the primary school in County Cork that I visited some weeks before the budget. School of 245 pupils, all of them accommodated in prefab buildings because there's no permanent school building. They have been knocked off the school building programme. They have a site, they've had the architects and the engineers and so on, but no money from the Department of Education. And they explained to me that if they could only go and get a loan, the repayments on the loan would be less than what the Department of Education is paying in rent for the prefab buildings.
Crazy economics.
And one of the things that struck me at that visit was the young teacher who became quite emotional as we stood in the prefab building. It was his classroom. And he tried to explain to me what it's like to be in that room on a cold, wet, winter Monday morning, and how you have to try and make the children comfortable and get them warm before you can think about teaching them. Or what it's like to be there on a summer's day with the sun belting in the windows and the stuffy feeling inside of that room. And what you have done for that teacher, Minister, is you've put 3 or 4 additional pupils into his classroom. That's what you've done. And Minister Eamon Ryan's answer to that teacher is to come in here and to give a precious little homily about how the teacher should be more flexible and how he should change the way he does things. The people who need to change the way they do things are Minister Ryan, who has become more out of touch in 15 or 16 months in government than Fianna Fáil have in their entire 11 years. I met the principal of that school yesterday evening. She was up here for the protest, and I expected her to talk to me about the school building, but she didn't. She talked to me about the books. She said that she was one of the beneficiaries. Her school got the book grant. And she explained to me the little book lending scheme that they had put in place. And it's gone. Gone. That's the consequence of your 7.5 million cut in school books. Just as you have a similar consequence in cutting the budget for school libraries, cutting the budget for gifted children, cutting the numbers, the school class numbers at second level, which will have the consequence of reducing subject choice. The consequence in further education, where entire courses will now go, at a very time where we've people coming out of employment and where they need to go back into education to retrain and to educate. How do you justify at a time when unemployment is rising, cutting 500 places out of the Back to Education scheme? Yes. How do you justify cutting 8% from the budget for youth services at a time when our society is concerned about what is happening out there on our streets and the need to provide worthwhile activities for our young people? Deputy Frank Fahey lays a challenge to me and to the Labour Party about where we will get the money and how do we respond to that. I will give Frank Fahey not one answer but 2 answers. And the first answer is this: you're not making savings at all, because this kind of penny-wise, pound-foolish approach to education is something for which you are going to have to pay down the line. If you make it harder for a child to learn in primary school, you're going to have to pick up the cost of that in remedial teaching at second level school. If you reduce subject choice at second level, you are going to make it more difficult for people to participate in third level. And if you do that, you end up making it harder for this economy to recover. And ultimately, the people who fall through the cracks in the education system because of underfunding will end up costing you money in your social welfare bill, in your health bill, and maybe even in your justice bill. The second answer that I would give to Frank Fahey is this: is to look at, and it's an issue that I raised this morning and again yesterday at Can Corla, curious little arrangement that the government has made with the banks. We had a bailout scheme for the banks. It was brought in here. It was the talk of the country for weeks. We were going to bail out the banks. And the Taoiseach came in And he said, don't worry about it. It will never be called in because the banks collectively will pay for it. If a bank goes under, if a bank goes to the wall, the other banks will club together and do it. It was even written into the scheme that banks participating in this would agree to indemnify the minister in respect of any payments covering liabilities made by the minister following a claim made under the guarantee. We then find that's hardly dry. The ink is hardly dry on that. When the government goes and does a sweetheart deal with the same banks and publish on the Department of Finance website an arrangement whereby no bank, it says, a covered institution is not required to indemnify the minister in respect of any payments made by the minister under a guarantee given up by any covered institution which is not a member of its corporate group. So while this government is bringing in one of the most savage budgets in the history of the state, it's giving the nod and wink to the banks that it has asked the Irish taxpayer to claim out. The nod and wink for the banks, the love lodger for the poor pupils in the schools. Ceann Comhairle, I'm not angry at the Green Party. I'm just sad about the Green Party. Because what I saw here this morning, I heard Minister Ryan and I heard Deputy Gogarty. And I heard and saw a party that's just beaten. This party, Deputy Gogarty comes in here, shrugs his shoulders and says, that's politics. And we're all political practitioners here, and we do understand that there's compromise in politics, that there can sometimes be a degree of grandstanding. But I'll tell you what's also politics. Politics is standing for something. Because unless you stand for something, there is no politics and there's no place in politics. And I have to ask myself today, and I say this as somebody who has always identified, and I've publicly said this on many occasions, I've always identified with what the Green Party have said and what they've stood for and with the philosophy behind their party and their politics. But I have to ask myself today, what does the Green Party stand for? The Green Party went to the people at the last general election saying that they were going to look after education and they were going to look after children. We've let them all down. They have failed to honour that pledge and to stand up for education and to stand up for the children of the country. And if you can't stand up for the very thing that you put in biggest highlights in your party political broadcast and in your pre-election promises, is it any surprise that you drive a motorway through the hill of Tara,
hear, hear,
that you build incinerators that you told people you were never going to allow build, or that you allow prisoners to continue to be rendered through some of our airports? The Green Party is dead. The Green Party is beaten. I think that's a sad day for this country. But the Green Party does have an opportunity to recover and to redeem itself. The Green Party can make a stand here today. This is a motion which is very simple. This is a motion about calling on the government to reverse the decision to increase class sizes. The Green Party, like every individual backbench deputy in Fianna Fáil, have the opportunity in a few minutes' time when you put this motion at Ceann Comhairle to vote with the Labour Party. This is an occasion where politics is about standing for something. It's about standing by the children of the country, by their parents, by the education system, about the future of education in this country, which is so necessary if this country is going to achieve an economic recovery. Or it is simply about staying in office, getting further and further out of touch with the reality of people's lives and further away from the promises and pledges that the same party and politicians made to the public a bare 15 or 16 months ago.